Let's get started, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. My name is Kristen Casado. I'm Director of Communications for the Alzheimer's Association, and we are so glad that you're joining us for this really important discussion and sharing some really important information. Many of you know, but some might know what the statistics are right now for Alzheimer's. Right now, more than 5 million people in this country are living with Alzheimer's disease. We expect this number to actually go up to 15 million by the year 2050. And here in Connecticut, the new statistics, they come out every year. We have right now 80,000 people living with Alzheimer's in Connecticut and 178,000 caregivers. And many of those caregivers, ladies and gentlemen, work in your workplace. So that is really part of the reason that we are here. For every person who has this disease, there are about 3 to 5 people, 3 to 5, who actually take care of that person, including local, and then we're including some long distance caregivers as well. So we've asked you here to come this morning to really talk about this issue. You most likely have employees who are dealing with this, and people might not be talking about it. Unfortunately, there is still a stigma, even though there are so many folks who have this disease. And we often find that there are people who don't know that we exist and don't know that the resources are out there until further on in the journey. We want to prevent that from happening. We really want to make sure that everybody who needs us knows that we're there and has access to us as the Alzheimer's Association. We lead the way by accelerating research, driving risk reduction, and there are a lot of things that we do here to share as far as the association, and we're a nonprofit. Okay, so a lot of the things that we do are free of service to folks. So for example, we have more than 90 support groups, and right now because of COVID, we've flipped to all our education programs. Support groups are virtual. It's really not safe to be in the presence and meet with folks who are already compromised and have this disease. So we're doing everything online, and actually is working out pretty well because you don't have to get in a car and you don't have to drive somewhere. And it's actually interesting because we're reaching more people. We can even reach people with some of these classes and some of these support groups who actually live in different parts across the country, right? So because you can just access here. So maybe a mother, a wife who's taking care of a husband and their daughter in California, you know, they can be together from opposite coasts. So it works really well in that regard. We do have an 800 helpline. We want to make sure that everybody knows about that. It's 800-272-3900. And maybe somebody can put that in the chat for me this morning. And that's not only questions about anything you have with dementia. It can also be related to workforce. For example, I need a name of an elder care attorney. Or I have a question about one of my employees. What's going on? Is this something we should be concerned about with memory concerns and memory issues? Using that 800 number is not just for crisis. It's a lot for information, for referral, for the different things that we offer. And you can also schedule a care consultation, which is a further deeper dive one-on-one with the family so that you can help and be guided through this process of dementia. All the education classes that we do, we're often doing them in companies. So we're very happy that you guys are joining us and realizing some of you have had our education classes, and we want to share with other people the importance, and Christy and Suzanne are going to talk about that as well, of having those classes in your workplace and offering the services to your employees. We have things from know the 10 signs to later on in the disease, what's an effective way to communicate, effective communication for people with dementia, to something that may check off one of your HR boxes, which is healthy living for your brain and body. So that's important to think about as well, because we want to keep this workforce obviously as healthy as we can. We have that class as well as we're getting more and more research on the things that we can do now to help reduce our risk of cognitive decline later. So that is very exciting, and that option is there as well. We are advocates. We have people who are across the country, but definitely here in Connecticut, we focus on a lot of state and federal issues to try to drive our mission forward and continue to raise money for research. And in fact, we do fund research, and we are proud that we have about $2.8 million in research right here in Connecticut, with folks doing different things to look towards new treatments and hopefully a cure. And all these things are possible because of thanks to people who support us in multiple ways. Through our biggest fundraiser that just wrapped up, our Walk to End Alzheimer's, thanks for everybody who's here, who was involved in that, as well as the other things that we do, the other fundraisers that we do, our different events. That's how we really can bring these services to you. So let's take a look at the caregiver statistics in the workplace and some of the things that are really, things you may not even realize. 6 in 10 caregivers were employed in the last year. So it's not just the folks who are home taking care. And they're working an average of 35 hours a week per caregiving. So it's consistent, it's constant what they're doing. 57% of employed caregivers reported that they had to go in late or leave early. 18% went part-time. Went part-time from full-time. 9% of caregivers had to completely give up work. I know someone very personally, i.e. myself. I actually ended up quitting my job in San Diego and moving back to Connecticut to take care of my mom, who had Lewy body dementia. So that's a case too, relocation. There's a lot of different things that are going on that are affecting the workplace. People had to retire early. I know a lot of folks who have to retire to, that career and that job is done. My job is now to take care of my loved ones. So there's a lot of statistics, and this really does impact your workplace. And again, maybe people aren't talking about it as much, even though they probably should. It's really important for company leaders to know these things. All right, let's look at something that's impacting this even more. We are living in the time of COVID, right? So let's take a look at what these new statistics have come out. There have been 30,000 more deaths than expected due to COVID. And you guys have heard about all of this and the compromised, and not only the compromised, right? So the concern is what's happening. Well, look, half of the people in nursing homes already have dementia, and almost half in residential cares and also assisted livings have dementia as well. So you're adding to that, your caregiver who works for you has all these feelings of guilt, of sadness, of worry, because for the last 6 months have not been able to see their person or hug their person, right? And if they could, they did a window visit. How incredibly stressful is that? And the window visit may have been in the middle of the workday, so that may have been why they had to have those 2 hours blocked off time in their calendar. So we will talk in a bit, but workplace flexibility is really important and really key in this regard. So just realize that COVID is making things even harder for your employees who are caregiving at this point. Know that dementia affects short-term memory. I would like to share a story with you right now. So there is a man who was having a bit of trouble at work. He was having some performance issues, and there were some concerns, and the employer had meetings with him, and things didn't get better. So he had to bring him into the office and actually had to let him go. So the man was let go. He was no longer working at the company. Except for the fact that the next morning he walked into work and tried to clock in and couldn't because he didn't remember that he'd been let go the day before. Short-term memory had completely lost the day before. And that's how we got involved with that company to train and to educate about what this disease does and what this looks like. So we have connected with that company to offer education classes, just like we've connected with the companies that you are about to hear from, the representatives who we have for us this morning. We are very pleased to welcome Suzanne Ellery, who is Senior Director, Site Affairs Lead of Pfizer, and Christy Bourbon, who is Senior Design Consultant, Plains Learning and Training from the Hartford. And they're both going to share some things with us that are very important. And we're going to start with Suzanne. So Suzanne, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to mute myself and let you share.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story and also tell you what we're doing at Pfizer. So I've been at Pfizer for 32 years. I started in 1988, and that's actually where I met my husband, Craig. We were both scientists in labs and had a lovely love story. And at the age of 51, my husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's while working at Pfizer. Luckily for us, Pfizer has a fantastic long-term disability program. We felt very supported. He took a leave of absence while we were trying to figure out what was going on with him. Similar to the story that you told, Kristen, he was having troubles focusing at work and we didn't know what was happening. So we got a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment at first, went and sought out a neurologist, and then in December of his was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and took long-term disability. He was at the time a clinical study manager, and now the tides have flipped, and he's now in a clinical study. So that is giving us a lot of hope, and Alzheimer's Association has given us a lot of hope. This is how I got involved. I actually approached Shauna at a chamber event and told her about my husband, and we've become, I think, fast friends since then. But as far as what Pfizer's doing, we've been supporting Alzheimer's for many years. We did research in Alzheimer's for many years. Unfortunately, we had so many failures in that area that we decided to back out of that area, but also to fund other companies, smaller companies, to do the work. So we are still funding work in that area. But what we're doing at Pfizer, as far as supporting folks, we're very fortunate in that we have a very generous benefits program for folks. Besides long-term disability, we have a life management resource program that provides free counseling for anyone. We have a very generous caregiver leave where you can have up to 2 full weeks of time off, paid time off to care for anyone in your family with Alzheimer's or any other issues. We also have very flexible work hours. I'm very fortunate in that I can't, before COVID hit, now I'm working from home. Before COVID, I was able to maybe go in a little bit later, set my husband up in the morning before I got to work, make sure he had a good breakfast, go into work, check in at lunchtime, go home early, take meetings from home. So that's one benefit from working at Pfizer. And finally, we not only do we support the Alzheimer's Walk with a team, but we have been using, taking advantage rather, of the virtual programming that the Alzheimer's Association has put out there. And we not only had the 10 signs of Alzheimer's talk, but also the common tips for, or communication tips rather. And during the 10 signs of Alzheimer's talk, we had over 200 colleagues join that, which I thought was surprising. And then I got some IMs from a few people who knew about my husband who said, oh my God, they're describing my mother right now. And so through IM, Instant Messenger, we were chatting about, okay, this is what you can do, this is who you should contact. So I think that we need to do more in that area. And we have a very formal or more formal setup cancer support system at Pfizer. But I think we have to put out there and work closely with the Alzheimer's Association to come up with what can we do, what can we offer for a support group at Pfizer.
Thank you, Suzanne. Absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, like you mentioned, we just had this class and people were like, hey, this is happening to me right now. So I didn't even know. Yes, they're just at this, you know, you're in a different state. You've gotten a diagnosis and you're taking care of your husband and but there are people who are, yeah, my mom is acting like that. Is there something that I need to be doing? So they're just at the beginning. So I think that that's a really great point, you know, to realize, and that we were mentioning, making sure, you know, that 800 number is available to your employees, all companies who are on this call. And we're helping all companies across the country, you know, realizing how crucial that helpline is. Just, it's a lifesaver for some people, you know, and some people it's just, they'll call to vent, say, hey, my mom is at the front door and it's 3 in the morning and she says she needs to go home. She's home. What am I supposed to do? How do I distract her? How do I deal with this? We're exhausted. It's freezing, whatever. You know, so there's so many things that 800 number can help. And in addition to, you know, information and referral, giving that, you know, I think my mom has some concerns. Where's there a neurologist in New Britain, right? So different things like that. So I think that that's a really good point. I'm going to ask a couple follow-up questions and then I'm going to get over to Christy. But Suzanne, I think that being a caregiver and you're dealing with this all in your house, right, in your home, you've got all of it going on. I think it's important that you do some things. We know that it's important for caregivers to take care of themselves. Is there time that you can do some things for yourself? And if so, what are they?
Great question. So I live a very busy life. I'm a person who doesn't like to sit down much at all. So beforehand, I was playing tennis a lot. I play competitively and I was playing in probably 3 leagues. So playing 3 to 4 times a week. Last year, I decided to not play at all. I just felt a little bit like things were out of control with work and with everything. And so now I've realized it's very important. I'm back to doing some of that. I'm playing tennis at least once a week. That's really important to be social. And it's hard during COVID, but tennis is one of the sports you can still play. So we're playing tennis once a week. But also what's been really important is that I got myself a therapist. And I was the type of person who thought, oh, I don't need that. I can help myself. I don't need a therapist. But it has been hugely helpful to spend an hour, even just once a month, really thinking inwardly about what can I do to help myself? What brings me peace? And how do I find that? And so it was such an easy question that my therapist asked me. I ask my friends it all the time now, like, what brings you peace? What are the three things? And for me, it was tennis, which I realized I wasn't playing anymore, yoga and meditation, which was becoming more limited for me. And I like to puzzle. I always have a puzzle going. So I've tried to incorporate those things in my life as much as possible. Pfizer has also been very generous during this time of COVID. We have this free app called Groker, Grokker. It's awesome. It's on my smart TV, and it does meditation, yoga. It offers all sorts of interval classes. So sometimes my husband and I do them together because he used to do a lot of yoga. So we'll have the TV on and we'll sit with our mats and we'll do some yoga. So that's what's been really important for time. And one more thing I'll add is that I have amazing friends. We have amazing friends, and they have still said, "Hey, let's get your husband and go play golf. We'll pick them up. We'll bring them home." So they understand. And when we're together and Craig's a little more quiet, they fill in where they need to, and it's just a very accepting group of folks that we hang out with. So I think being social has been hugely important in self-care.
Excellent. All wonderful ideas. And yes, we're going to record this, you guys, so we can send it out and share it. So because we're having, real personal ideas and things that companies are doing that we would like other people to share. So, all right. Thank you, Suzanne. We are going to flip over now to Christy Berman, who is with the Hartford, a senior design consultant, and hear how she's connected to the association. Christy?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. As Kristen said, I'm Christy Verben. I'm a senior instructional designer at the Hartford. I've been with the company for about 20 years, all in our claim training organization. About 2 years ago, the Hartford held a webinar on caregiving for employees to attend, and because I had started taking on more and more responsibility with my dad, like paying his bills and just following up on medical appointments, he seemed to be having some memory issues. I attended that webinar, and it was such a great conversation that was going on in the chat and just with the facilitator and everything. At the end of it, I didn't want it to end. I was like, how can I continue to connect with these people? Because I feel like I'm no longer alone in this journey. I didn't know other people who were caregiving. My dad was in Iowa. I'm in Texas. The remote caregiving was completely just a new frontier to me. So I reached out to the facilitator of the conversation and said, hey, I would love to continue to do this. I need connection with other employees. I need to know what I don't know. And from there, I started an interest group at the Hartford with about 8 people. And we just started having like a regular meeting where we could connect, where we could learn things. Over the past 2 years, our interest group has grown to almost 400 people. We do hold consistent monthly meetings now that we call coffee chats. So we have them a couple of times a month that people can attend when their schedule allows them to. And through those, we provide information on topics such as dementia, communication, legal issues, financial issues, hospice, just anything that relates to caregiving. If there's an interest in our group, then we do that. Because of that group and its growth over the past 2 years, I now sit on the leadership team of our Mature Professionals Network, which is professionals who have a ton of experience in our company, and they want to be able to share that experience with others in the company and just really fully utilize what a mature professional's experience provides to our company. And so the company's been much more aware of the needs of working caregivers because of the group, because of our consistency, because of our growth, and has really embraced it. I'm just overjoyed with how the Hartford has taken a focus on caregiving, and actually in 2020, it became one of the focuses of our wellness program. How can we support our caregivers? What can we do to provide resources to them, training to them, point out our benefits and our resources that might be helpful to them as a caregiver. So they've been very responsible and responsive and very flexible to our caregivers as Kristen mentioned, sometimes we do have times where we need to take a few hours to go and help here, or we need to leave early to take a parent to, a doctor's appointment or something. And with our benefits, the way that we can utilize them as caregivers, we've been able to be very flexible with that. My connection with the Alzheimer's Association actually started about 3 weeks before our walk last year, and a small group of us decided kind of last minute, hey, we want to participate in this. My own connection to Alzheimer's is that my father-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in, I would say, late 2007, early 2008. And we just noticed small things like he would leave the house and not remember where he was going. And we might be driving with him and he would take a completely different ride, direction home. And we're like, Poppy, where are you going? I'm going home. But it was a way that none of us had ever gone with him, and he would go places and not remember why he had gone there. So we were noticing some things, and obviously he was eventually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We lost him in November of 2009. My kids have the best memories of him, but they also are very aware of, why he couldn't remember them in their last days, and they were young, 11 and under. So we had a personal connection to Alzheimer's. And then this year, my kids were able to walk with me this year because of the walk being virtual, which meant so much to me, meant so much to their dad. And this year, our walk team grew to 44 people and raised over $17,000. And we were able to do this because of the connection we have with Alzheimer's Association, the resources they provided, everything was set up for us. And it was just so easy. Once people saw the vision of that walk and how they could make a difference in this day and age, they joined. People gave. If they couldn't walk, they made donations, and it was really successful for us. This connection with the Alzheimer's Association is ongoing. I get an email, a personal email from someone in the association every month, and we might be connecting on resources that they have that we could bring into our caregivers group and provide to our group, or maybe it's new research that might help them provide better care or different care or something to look into. And so I think the connection that we have with the association has been very beneficial. And I know that there are a couple of people in our community that have reached back to me after the training sessions that they've had and said, I wasn't going to attend today, but work is busy and stuff. But I was like, no, I'm going to take this 30 minutes and I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to attend. And I remember one employee calling me right after it ended, and she said, I had been noticing some things with my mom that made me uncomfortable, and I'd been thinking, maybe there's something going on to this, and maybe we need to go back to the doctor. And she said, I am certain now that my mom is having some issues because of the Alzheimer's Association training. I'm certain that she's having some issues now that we need to get on top of. And they went in, and they got the care that she needed. And so I just can't say enough about our connection with the association and how valuable they are to helping our caregivers balance work, balance life, and feel like they have a place that understands what issues they may be going through, and providing that support to them. So thanks very much for just being who you are.
Thank you, Christy. Wow, that's great stuff. You answered a bunch of my follow-up questions, which is wonderful. How did you get involved in walk? And I know that's an important thing for people, because I know that walk, in the times that we could gather, one of the most powerful moments is, of course, our promise garden ceremony, where the flowers are behind me, where everyone holds up where they are and looks around. And sometimes people who just show up at the walk for the first time, that's their first connection with us at all. And they just got a flower, and what do I do with this? And they look around and they say, oh my gosh, yeah, there are thousands of people who are walking this walk. And how do I connect with them so that I don't have to go it alone? And I think that's the whole point, because we have such stressors at work, additional stressors at home, and then the concern, and then going through the process of dementia where you're actually mourning pieces of your loved one is really hard and it's really stressful. and it affects, right? So if you can fill other parts of your life, like offering that time where you can chat, offering the time where you can actually reach out, and or realizing that an employer is open to these things. I think that's really important as well. So if you guys have folks who are on the call, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We can answer them. Let me just ask you guys, as far as have there been times you think that it's challenging to come forward? Well, I mean, what can you say to an employee? How do they come forward? How do they approach their manager, either about something that's going on in their life, or they're having a hard time as a caregiver? What's a way to approach, and maybe some advice to managers to be open to that as well?
I can answer that, or take first stab at it. We have an employee assistance program that is phenomenal. It is completely, you can contact an employee contact there. You can talk with them about your issue, and they can then reference any of the needs that you have as far as additional time. If you need a counseling session, we get 10 counseling sessions for free per issue per year. So if you have an issue with a dementia issue with your dad, and you're trying to work through that, that's 10 sessions. And if you have an issue with your child for something, that's another 10 issues. So very broad and very helpful in that, getting those. They also will refer us to a number of different benefits within the company. So if someone's not comfortable having that conversation with their manager at that particular moment, there is a place where they can contact, and it is outside of the Hartford. It's a benefit provided to us that they can start those conversations. At some point, though, you do need to have that conversation with your manager when the issues that you're walking through are going to impact your work or impact your day. Maybe it's that you need to take time off. Maybe it's just that you need to be gone for a few hours during the day. So as managers, as employers, we need to be very open to that communication. We need to be asking, is there anything that I can help you with? Are there any resources that you need? I know that most managers know some of the issues that are going on at home in some of their employees. Ask. Is there anything that you need? You're not being impersonal, you're not getting into their personal business, but you're trying to provide them resources and keep that open communication going, so that if they do have a need in that area, you can start talking about how they can still be the most productive employee that they want to be, because they do. I found caregivers are the most amazing people, because they are holding down a full-time job, and they are holding down, a full-time caregiving opportunity in a lot of situations, and they really want to do the best in both of those worlds. And I think that's what we need to remember as managers, as employers, is they're really juggling two extremely important issues to them.
I can follow up on what Christy said. Pfizer also has a very extensive employee benefits program that also has free counseling, et cetera. But I think a lot of this has to go back to like training, manager training, which I don't think we've done at Pfizer, to be quite frank, on how to manager training on caregiving and what are the needs of the caregiver. So I think that's something that I've already jotted down some notes that I'm going to take back to our HR group. We have a manager forum that we run. We just had one a couple days ago, that we bring all the people managers together to talk about issues like this. So I think this is something that we can explore more. But being on the side of seeing what happened with my husband 5 years ago, his manager had very little training in the area, and luckily Pfizer also has ombudsman. So we went to an ombudsman to get some advice, which is, for those who don't know what an ombudsman is, someone who's an impartial person who you can bring information to. They keep it 100% confidential unless there's abuse happening. And we had a very good conversation about next steps, and really helped us on our way and how to communicate and get what we needed for support. So that was another really great resource that we had at Pfizer.
Excellent. And also people can also you just want to let the employees know or post it in the lunchroom when we get back to our offices, the 800 number, so they can call that too with just different advice. How do I approach my manager? How do I talk to it? Can one of you guys address like how you would suggest to some of the leaders and some of the employers who are on with us this morning as to how to go forth to, bring our education classes or some programs to a company like yours?
Well, I guess I could start there. So we have a connection with Shauna. So I'm the site affairs lead at Pfizer. So I have a team of people. I'm very fortunate. I have someone who's in my external outreach and colleague engagement lead, and she reached out to Shauna to talk about what do we have programming, what can we do to help our colleagues. We do all sorts of mental health, mental awareness, suicide awareness, etc. Virtual programming. So we have had, actually I just confirmed with her that actually the numbers for our the 10 signs of Alzheimer's, we had 450 people attend that one. So obviously people were curious, maybe like you said, Christy, I see something, it's not quite right. And after that, I can imagine there's probably quite a few people who went away from that with, oh gosh, I do have someone with Alzheimer's in my family, I need to address this. So I think just reaching out to anyone at the association saying, who can bring this programming to me? And you were all very responsive. It's just like this, we did a Zoom meeting. Actually, I think we did a WebEx because that's what Pfizer uses, and very simple to set up, an hour of time. And because we're all virtual now, we offered this to all of our Pfizer sites throughout the country because it's free and it's easy. So you can have up to 1,000 people on a WebEx easily. So I think it's not hard to do it all. So I'd say just reach out and ask what's available and when can you come.
Excellent.
I would agree with that. We also, as our caregiving group started to grow, we really wanted to tailor our presentations to the needs of our group members. So we did a survey at the end of 2009 and really asked, dug into what issues were they facing, what resources did they feel like they needed, what information would be helpful to them, and a lot of those were pointed toward Alzheimer's and dementia information, caregiving resources, benefits information, different things like that. And so that helped us to confirm kind of what we already knew coming out of the walk from that year, that we really did need to provide more resources. And like Suzanne said, it was just make a simple phone call. We got plugged into who we needed to talk to, and they've been phenomenal and responsive to us. So,
someone had a question also as far as support groups. If you were to have a support group, or some of you have your caregiver group, Christy, is there a better time of the day? Is it a noon, or what is a good time to have?
That's a good question. We started with Friday mornings, but then a lot of our associates, take Fridays off. And so what we found was we started when we're pretty consistent with the same day and time for several months. Maybe it was like 8 or 9 months. And then we found that we had a number of people that were declining the invitation saying, I'm sorry, I'm on PTO that day, or I have a standing meeting that time. So we offered a second offering a couple weeks later in the month and on a different day of the week and a different time. So we consistently do what I call First Fridays. First Friday of every month at 10 o'clock is our time to have a coffee chat. And then we also have a Tuesday or Wednesday in the third week of the month in the afternoon. So they have a second option to attend. It's the same training material, the same resource information. We just provide it twice, and we'll record one of those sessions so that if somebody can't attend either, they can still go back and listen to the recording.
And Christy, you guys run that, right? So that's a caregiving group for all sorts of different caregivers, right?
Right. So that's open to anybody who's providing care, maybe providing care in the future, or just wanting to get up to speed on what is happening in the caregiving world. So we do have people in their 30s who are not caregiving yet, but know at some point they're going to be caregiving, and they're trying to get all their ducks in a row as far as what do I need to know, because I don't know anything at this point. What do I need to know? What can I do to help my parents prepare their paperwork, prepare their estate, different things like that. We have resources, and a lot of them are free, that can give advice in those areas.
Excellent. And then also just know, for everyone who's on this call, we have so many support group leaders, and they're all volunteer support group leaders. And then we can help you set up if you would wish to have some sort of dementia caregiving group, or if you think that there's a subset or enough folks in your company who would go and would need, and maybe if you have it as an offer, more people would come forward and say, yes, that is actually happening in my life. But I didn't know if I could go to a caregiving group because she's, my mom's in Hawaii. Well, you certainly can. You know, long distance caregiving, as you know, Christy, is a real thing, and there's a lot that goes along with that. Even more things like guilt, etc. Right? Because you're not there, so
Right.
definitely need to talk things out with that. So we have people who can run your support group for you, and it's just, you know, it's leading the discussions, and so we have training for that as well, and we have a lot of wonderful people who volunteers. You know, folks, somebody from your company could actually, you know, become trained for that. Let's pop up that final slide if we could, Madison, and just share, you know, what it really just takes, you know, one step to join us. You know, we've got Marshalls as a national partner. You probably, or you may have seen that there's a week in March where Marshalls will give $5 or $10 you can do at point of sale. CVS did that last year as well. So we have national partners, but also local. Lime Rock Park, Standard Oil does the purple trucks. We've had some definite education classes for the Standard Oil folks. You know, sometimes when they get out there, they may be encountering people as well who are having some concerns, you know, about what's going on with somebody that they saw, you know, or somebody asked me what I was doing out here, and I've been, you know, working with them for 20 years, and how come he's not sure what the purple truck is, and what am I pumping in, or something, you know. So different things like that. It's really important to make sure everyone knows what's going on. Heart, and of course you guys, Pfizer and the Hartford, you know, so powerful with your walk teams and involved. And it only just really takes, you know, one step and one connection to bring us. So we have our Walk to End Alzheimer's. We have The Longest Day, which is another fundraising activity, which is a do-it-yourself fundraiser that happens kind of around the June area. We have our education conference that happens in the spring, where we have so many amazing things, different talks and different webinars and seminars, really not only for caregivers, but for people to get, you know, doctors and nurses as well. There's just so much information there. We have galas and dinners and advocacy events, and we'd love people to volunteer and join us. If people would like to be with us, we have, you can email ctchapter@alz.org. You can go on our website. You can always, of course, call the 800 number, which is 800-272-3900. That's our helpline. And you can also connect with your local walk manager or your local connection, you know, our program team, our advocacy team, or email back the people who sent you this invitation. So if anybody, do you guys want to have any final words of advice or anything as we wrap up? Suzanne, you want to say a few words?
Well, again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk, and I learned a lot from you today, Christy, as well. So thank you from the Hartford. I really will be taking some of your learnings and bringing it back to our company. But I just want to say, you know, there's a lot of people around you may not even know have Alzheimer's, and I think just being aware, being patient, being willing to share your story really will help people in their journey. We all need to support one another. So I feel supported through this organization. So thank you, Kristen and Shauna and others.
Thank you, Suzanne. Christy?
Yes, thanks. Again, thank you for the invitation to come and to share our story at the Hartford. I think what I would want people to leave this I was just a person who needed connection. I really just started this because it was, you know, amazing to me that I am not alone in this journey. There are many, many other people who are providing care too, and I'm not a manager in my company. I'm just me, and I want to be able to connect with individuals. And so from that, others saw that vision. So I would encourage you, if you don't have those resources at your company, step up and say, I don't know how to do this here at wherever you work, but I think it's necessary. I think it would really be a benefit to our employees. I think it would help them to better balance life and work and their needs as a caregiver. And for that reason, I'm going to step up and light the torch. And I'm going to decide to do something to help. Maybe you're not a caregiver, but this has touched your heart, and maybe you are a caregiver and you are looking for that connection. Just do something, and you will be met in the area of your need by the association, because there's so many resources there for you to just take part of. So just take the first step. I think it's a really important piece.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories and for being such amazing representatives for us out there in the community. You guys are going through a lot. So thank you for your time and preparation, and thank you for all you do in your hearts. We greatly appreciate it. All right, folks, I think that we are going to wrap it up. Thank you all for coming with us on this little journey today and listening, and we will definitely make this available. And if you would like to reach out to us, please do. We would like to keep you, if you're not with the family, we'd like to welcome you into the family. We greatly appreciate it. All right, bye, everyone. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Suzanne.